Hello everyone, welcome to another Warframe video, and today I want to talk a little bit about Sanctuary Onslaught, more specifically the elite version of Sanctuary Onslaught. I was really excited about this game mode ever since they first revealed it on a dev stream, because to me it looked kind of like Greater Rifts from Diablo 3, and I had great fun running those and trying to push those as high as I could. So when I saw that I was like, Greater Rifts in Warframe? Hell yeah, let's go. And now that I've been playing it for a couple of days, yeah, it really feels like just a series of Greater Rifts without the boss at the end, because in Diablo 3 you do have to defeat the Rift Guardian at the end to kind of finish off the Rift. So I really like the idea of this, but the execution, well, let's just say it could have been better. The issues I have with this right now are, number one, there doesn't seem to be any scaling when it comes to party size, so the efficiency drain and gains feel exactly the same whether you're running solo or with a 4-man party, which just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And it really restricts what you can use in solo mode, because it makes it infinitely harder to sustain your efficiency in solo, because it's just you killing stuff, whereas if you're in a party, you have 3 other people killing stuff as well. Now to that, you might say, well, just go play it in a party, you moron, if it's so much easier, and I would reply, well, some of us just cannot handle the overwhelming excitement and the amount of stuff that's happening in party mode. I mean, can you tell what's going on? Because I can't. Jokes aside though, that is my issue number 2, how bloody broken it is in party play. The constant host migrations leading to either people losing their stuff or being stuck on the host migration screen, which is what happens for me. The game, for me at least, never got past the host migration screen. I just have to Alt F4 out of the game every time it happens. Issue number 3, the zones and the factions that spawn in these zones. Let's just quickly go through the zones that we have with Elite Onslaught this week. Zone 1. What's going on with Zone 1? It's the Dead Elite tileset, which is generally really good, but it spawns like 5 enemies at a time, and half of them aren't even aware of you. They're not alerted, so they're just casually walking around. They don't even fight you. It's not a big deal right now because it's Zone 1, but if this were to spawn on like Zone 4 and above, let's just say, you're screwed. It just kills your run right there. You can't get past it. There isn't enough enemies, even if you're killing them as soon as they spawn. Why is this combo in the rotation at all? And why is it Zone 1? Because that's the first thing you run into, so they obviously know it's there, because they had to test it at least a little bit. So they know it's there, but they're like, yeah, this is fine. Let's just make the first zone completely terrible. We then move on to Zone 2, which is kind of like the exact opposite of Zone 1. It is much bigger, it's about 2 times bigger, I would say, maybe 3 times, and it has crazy mob density. Right? It also spawns low tier units, which will die if you just sneeze in their general direction, so you can kind of make up for the lost efficiency from Zone 1. Zone 3 also has crazy mob density, but it's about half the size of Zone 2. So it's even better than Zone 2, because the enemies are packed closer together. And Zone 4 has the exact same enemy spawns as Zone 2, so they are low tier corrupted units, but the size is somewhere between Zone 2 and 3. It's not as big as Zone 2, but it's not as cramped as Zone 3. So this one is really good as well. But then you get to Zone 5, and the first thing you notice is that it's like 6 times the size of any of the previous zones. And that's a problem, because while it's pretty good at the start, because the enemies will generally spawn around you, as you go further and further into the zone, they will start spawning farther away from you, which means it takes them longer to get to you, which means it takes you longer to kill them and for them to respawn, so you will start hemorrhaging efficiency here. This is where, in solo mode at least, the low-end setups for Onslaught will probably fail. And if they don't fail on Zone 5, they will most likely fail on Zone 6, because if you go into Zone 6 with a suboptimal setup and you don't have a ton of spare efficiency, you're most likely not getting through this. Now, this version of the Moon Tile set isn't as bad as the last week's version of the Moon Tile set, because it has Corpus rather than the Grenade. And the Corpus seem to be much better at navigating this tile set, and I don't know if that's just the difference between the factions or if they did something to tweak this. I think the biggest issue here is that it's basically 2 floors on top of one another, and sometimes the enemies will either get stuck at the bottom or the top, and if you're at the bottom and the enemies get stuck at the top, they will never make it to you, and vice versa. This kind of highlights how dumb the AI can be at times. Now, I'm not saying that this is a valid test, because I have no idea what they use to basically control the enemy AI, if they're using some sort of navigation mesh that they layer over the tile set and that kind of allows the enemies to sandbox all over it. And if they do, I don't know if it's done properly for Captura, but what you can do is go into Captura, spawn a couple of enemies, and then just stand in one spot and watch what they do. And you'll be surprised at how dumb they can be. I mean, just look at them. They know I'm here, right? They're aware of me. They saw me. One of them even tried to raise the alarm, which they can't do in Captura because the alarm posts don't work. So they just kind of run up to it and boop it to try it, and then they leave it alone. Now then, one of them is like, oh, maybe I need to go around. But no, let's go back. Then the other one had the same idea, and this one actually made it all the way around. However, once he gets to the edge, he's like, oh no, no bridge. What do I do? Well, I guess I'll just spin in place. The second Eximus unit also made it through, and now they both don't know what to do, and they will push each other around until one of them falls into the water, at which point the AI just kinda gives up. Okay, they will stand in the same spot and spin around. So the 2 Eximus unit almost made it to me, but the third unit, which was not an Eximus, is still spinning in his spawn location. Though bear in mind, once again, I have no idea if this is an accurate representation of what the AI will do in-game, because it's Captura. You don't really need proper enemy AI here. Now, this isn't something that I've noticed with Onslaught. I've noticed this as soon as I started doing Captura intros. I just could not get the enemies to follow me into certain locations, and it's why I use butchers, you know, different variants, normal butchers, Ricard butchers, arid butchers, and stuff like that, because they seem to be the smartest. They will follow you around almost everywhere. Here, by the way, is another example of the AI not really knowing what to do. I spawned 3 enemies at the top, and then I ran at the bottom, and the first one that almost made it down there was the heavy gunner, but it took her like a solid minute. But she did eventually start to make her way down, unlike the other 2. The butcher, for example, didn't do anything. He just kind of stood there and did nothing. And the lancer took cover at the start and never moved from there. He only started to move once I got close to him. He just sat right here for the entire time, just taking cover. And this is why I think the Grenier zones are worse than the Infested, Corpus, or even the Corrupted ones, because the Grenier will try to take cover. But anyway, if you make it past Zone 6, Zone 7 is a freebie. It's a derelict mission with infested spawns, right? So it's the same tileset as the first mission, but you can see that it has infested. It has quite a lot of high tier units, so it's a little bit different to Zone 8 in last week's Elite Onslaught. But you can see how wildly different it is to Zone 1, because it is the same tileset, it's just a different faction. Zone 8, while not as good as Zone 7, because it's slightly more convoluted and there's some stairs and bridges, which seem to screw with the AI the most, I would still consider a freebie, because you're not really going to hemorrhage efficiency if you have a decent setup. Zone 9 is basically the same thing as Zone 8. It is a different tileset, but it also has some bridges and stairs, which kind of screws with the AI, but you still have the infestation and you have a lot of them, so it's also kind of a freebie. Zone 10 is also really good, and I can't really see anyone failing this one because it has the same spawns as Zone 4 and 2, so lower tier corrupted units, and it's a fairly small tileset where the enemies will bunch up a lot. And then you make it to Zone 11 and most likely lose, no matter the setup. Because it's a massive, open, complicated tileset with ramparts, and you need to kill those first or destroy those first, otherwise the AI will want to go for the rampart, so you're already losing time there. It's the first zone where you only get 1 stimulus instead of 2, and it has the Grenier, which like to take cover. High tier Grenier as well. It spawns a lot of napalms, and while they're not as beefy as their regular counterparts that you find in normal missions, because the enemies in Onslaught seem to be a lot squishier, they're still pretty beefy. This zone is just a shit show. It's everything bad that can be in a zone in one. And congratulations to all of you that managed to get past this in solo, because it is nightmarish. It's not too hard to do in party because you can split up and kind of occupy different parts of the tileset and then gather efficiency there. But as a solo player, you're just screwed here. I'm currently trying to get past it by getting Mesa in there instead of Inaros, and I have a secondary weapon that's modded for radiation so that I can actually kind of stand in the middle of the tileset and use peacemakers every now and then while also meme striking with my Guandao. But even that hasn't been successful yet, because even though I'm killing everything as soon as I see it, they just spawn too far away. It takes them too long to get into line of sight, and I just hemorrhage efficiency too fast. I just can't get past it right now. And it feels really bad because getting up to 11 isn't hard. Like, if you have a weapon that does a lot of area damage in one burst, you can get to 11. I managed to get to 11 even without meme strike on my Guandao. I replaced it with Prime Fury for more attack speed, and I was still able to get there, but as soon as I hit 11, I lose. And it highlights how not balanced at all the zones are, because Zone 10, very easy, Zone 11, nightmare. I hope they do something about this. I hope they balance them at least a little bit. Yeah, I don't want every zone to be a big square with the same enemies spawning over and over and over again. But they need to bring them closer together, because look at the density here, right? Look at how many enemies there are in zone 10. And now look at zone 11. Nothing, nothing. There we go. There's like 5 dudes here. Yay. And finally, issue number 4, the ability restrictions. Why? Like, I understand why they might have wanted to put it in there so that people don't just quake the entire tile set, but what's the difference between a quaking Banshee and me memeing around with the Riven Dub Guan Dao? Well, I'm not covering as much area, okay, but I'm doing infinitely more damage. It doesn't cost me energy. I am very mobile while doing it, and Simaris isn't gonna get all pissy and like, you can't do that, it's not fair, and put a cooldown on my slide attack when I do it too much. Now, some people are trying to make DE change it so that Simaris would also disable overused weapon. So if you're using a weapon too much, he will disable it for a while. Someone even took my Onslaught video, the one where I got to zone 12 by meme striking through it last week, and posted it on the forums to kind of show the developers how much bullshit it is, right? And they were complaining about it. But I think that's the wrong way of doing it. I think they shouldn't restrict anything. If people want to quake the tile set, let them quake the tile set. If they were to implement that change, solo Elite Onslaught would cease to be a thing, because the only way to get anywhere in solo Onslaught is to meme strike or do something similar. You are not getting to zone 8 with a Bratton. I thought Onslaught, or at least the elite version of Onslaught, was supposed to be a place where people that have all the best things in the game can go and make use of those things. But if you spend the last few months trying to make the perfect Quaking Banshee setup, and you're like, god damn, this is the best Quaking Banshee setup in the game, you can't use it in Onslaught. Because you use it twice and Simmers is like, well, that's a nice Quaking Banshee setup, it doesn't work now because it has a 15-second cooldown, have fun. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Onslaught. Even with all of that said, I've sunk quite a few hours into it already. I play it a lot. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And I think the normal version of Onslaught is perfect. It's just a bit of random fun where you can farm Korra, some relics, some Captura scenes, you can level stuff up, you can farm focus. And if they fix, the host migrations and stuff like that, it's gonna be perfect. But when it comes to the elite version, I'm really not a big fan of the restriction on abilities. I think we should be able to do whatever we can to push as far as we can. I don't like how wildly different the zones are, and I really feel like they should be brought closer together so you don't have crazy jumps like we have right now from 10 to 11. The crashes and host migration issues need to be ironed out as soon as possible, because that's probably the most annoying thing in there. And I would really like to see them do something about the whole solo versus party, and that doesn't necessarily mean just making them the same, so solo isn't harder than party, but maybe just splitting the leaderboard into solo and party so that I can push as far as I can in solo and compare myself to other people that also ran it in solo. I would personally be okay with that, because you don't really need to go above zone 8, which you can do if you have the gear and you know what to do. Because, that's where you get rotation C reward, so you already got a shot at the entire drop table. Everything else, everything beyond that is basically just a nice bonus. So it'd actually be okay if they didn't touch solo mode and left it as it is, just balanced out the zones a little bit, but gave us separate leaderboards. I think that would be really cool. And oh my, I've been rambling for almost 14 minutes. This was originally meant to be like a 5 to 6 minute video at best, which is what I usually do, but I got kind of carried away. So yeah, I thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.